Hi, good evening, and welcome everybody to the 5th annual community-wide Jewish Unity event, One People, One Heart, celebrating the teachings and impact of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory. My name is Shimona Davidoff, and I'm honored and privileged to serve as your Masters of Ceremony this evening. My husband, Rabbi Sadia, and I co-direct the Chabad Jewish Center of Shoreline since 2018, focused on building community and enriching Jewish life for everyone that enters through our doors. We are here tonight in preparation for Gimel Tammuz, the day the Rebbe physically left us 28 years ago, in the year 1994. From the moment the Rebbe arrived in America in 1941, his brilliance at addressing himself to the following ideal became apparent. He would not acknowledge division or separation. Every Jew, indeed every human being, had a unique role to play in the greater scheme of things and is an integral part of the tapestry of God's creation. With extraordinary insight, the Rebbe perceived the wealth of potential in each and every person. His inspiration, now accessible through his writings and videos, boosts the individual's self-perception, ignites his awareness of that hidden wealth, and motivates a desire to fulfill his potential. In the same way, many communities have been transformed by the Rebbe's message and been given directly or indirectly a new sense of purpose and confidence. In each case, the same strong, if subtle, message is imparted. You are divinely gifted with enormous strength and energy. Actualize it. I would like to mention some special guests who are in attendance tonight. We'd like to welcome the Mayor of Seattle, the Honorable Bruce Harrell. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for attending. It really means so much to each and every one of us here tonight. We'd like to also welcome tonight's keynote speaker, the rabbi from Kharkiv, Ukraine, Rabbi Mendel Moskowitz. Welcome, Rabbi Moskowitz, and thank you very much for making the long trip to Seattle to inspire us. It is now a distinct honor for me to introduce to you our regional director and the Mora d'Asra of Congregation Shari Tefillah Lubavitch, Rabbi Shalom Ber Levitin. Rabbi Levitin, along with his wife, Rebbetzin Chani, were sent by the Rebbe 50 years ago in 1972 to open Chabad of the Pacific Northwest. Since then, Chabad of the PNW has grown and flourished to levels unimaginable, with dozens of institutions spanning across 5 states and 2 provinces. Please join me in giving a heartfelt blessing to Rabbi and Mrs. Levitin. May God Almighty grant you health, coupled with much strength and vigor to continue your holy mission until the coming of Mashiach may it be speedily in our days. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Levitin.
I'm not prepared. No one told me I'm supposed to speak, but I guess we have to do it. Mr. Mayor, you probably also have to wing it like me. Not tonight, but usually. First, I want to thank Mr. Mayor for coming with his staff. All of you for coming tonight. I know it's challenging for some to still get out and to mix together with all. First, I want to begin with a blessing. May the Almighty bless us all. The world in which we live, there should be peace and tranquility, health, and that we should move on in life. Like they say, daloi in Russian, daloi, golus, no more of exile, no more of pandemic, no more of war. When Mashiach will come, it will be a perfected world, a world of peace, tranquility, love, and spiritual bliss and growth. One short insight. Today, I had a phone call. I get phone calls. I still think I still work the phone. Okay, I don't know about you, but I still work the phone. And it was a woman who was very distraught. Without getting into the particulars, so we had a conversation. And I said, you know, in 10 days it's going to be the Rebbe's yard site, and she knows of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe always emphasizes the positive elements in life, and in those challenging moments, how to transform them and see the good, to see the spiritual, to see the godly. There's a challenge you're going through now, and through the challenge you're going to grow, become more sensitive, broader, accepting, loving. You'll be able to relate better to people through the challenge. And that was more or less the substance of my discussion with her. The same I say in our time in which we live. Through the challenges, through all these situations, we have the rabbi here from Ukraine. Chabad had 150 representatives in Ukraine before the war. Many of the families have left. The rabbis are there, continuing with their holy work. The stories that we hear of the self-sacrifice, of the devotion, of the love, of people from all walks of life in the Ukraine, who are so happy that the rabbis are there with them, coming into the centers, going into the bunkers. I mean, it's a total transformation from 80 years ago during the war, what was happening in Ukraine. It's like, when you look at the Ukraine today, as far as we haven't heard of one anti-Semitic act in Ukraine during war. You know what that means? You know what happened during the Second World War in Ukraine? Not one synagogue has been defaced, not one synagogue has been anything touched in the whole Ukraine for months. The love and the feeling and the respect, that itself is a taste of how the world will be when the Messiah will come and liberate the world. May it be speedily in our time. Thank you, Rabbi Shmuley Rebbetzin, putting together the beautiful evening. I know there was a big debate whether we should keep it on Zoom like the last 2 years. I said, let's go for it. We'll go for it. We got to break out. Thank all of you who are the speakers from the previous years. I see Eli. Thank you, you're here. Before COVID, you were the last one who spoke. I see Al Myman, my good friend Al, is going to be one of the speakers tonight. My daughter, who's sitting right here. I want to thank everybody for coming. Onward, upward, we're going to the promised land.
Thank you, Rabbi Levitin. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome to the stage the Mayor of Seattle, Mr. Bruce Harrell. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for gracing us with your presence. May the Almighty bless you with the strength and wisdom necessary to continue to lead our great city to a successful, safe, and prosperous future. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mayor of Seattle, Mr. Bruce Harrell.
Thank you very much. That's a very kind and warm introduction. And like the rabbi, I try to prepare and not riff it, as they say. A few points I'd like to make. Thank you for honoring me by even inviting me here. I want to thank the Jewish community of Greater Seattle for hosting the event, of course, and Rabbi Levitin for just inviting me. That's all he had to do, just invite me. Because you all are prayer warriors and men and women of faith and of love and commitment and family. And when I see and hear events like this, this is where the mayor's supposed to be. I will tell you that I had read an article about Rabbi Moskowitz. It was back in latter February. The article is called "It's a War Zone," and talked about a New York rabbi in eastern Ukraine tries to keep up hope as bombs fall. And I thought about that. What faith, what commitment, what love. That in Seattle, I was raised in the Christian church. I became a Christian as a young man, and I talk openly and unashamedly about my faith. And I use words like God, hope, and faith, and forgiveness. I also visit different churches of different faiths, different cultures. And while I don't purport to know a lot about world religions and world faiths, I will say that I'm a voracious reader, and I try to read everything I can. And I continue to believe that when we talk about, in political terms, diversity, we say we celebrate diversity, cultural differences, socioeconomic differences, different perspectives on life, different traditions, different cultures. I get it, and I celebrate it. I'm a product of two cultures. I think many of you know my mother was a Japanese American and my father was an African American, and who knows what they had in common when they met when they were 14. I don't get it, but they married, and they married their whole life. And what they focused on is not what they had that was different, but what they had in common. So when we celebrate our differences, I believe it has to intersect and go down that path toward commonality. And while I am not a member of your faith, I know we have so many things in common. You want effective police responses from my police department. You want to feel safe. You want to be able to walk the streets in Seattle and bring your grandchildren and your children. I have 2 granddaughters. You want educational opportunities and economic opportunities better than that you had, and you want to be able to have your families feel good about themselves in the job market. You want a place to worship, to practice your cultural beliefs. You want peace, you want love. That's what we have in common. The other thing we have in common is we don't want to wear these things the rest of our lives either, right? And then for those that have said goodbye to someone we love, for those that have visited someone to the oncology ward and you heard less than pleasant news, you want your hope and your faith to carry you through the tough times. So I'm supposed to be right here to welcome the great Rabbi Mendel Moskowitz to our home, to let you know that from the mayor's vantage point, that you are a valued and respected community. And it's not because we are different, it's because we are more common than you think. And many of you I do know personally, and I'm thankful to have those friendships. So thank you. And when I talk about one Seattle, you heard me say this, one Seattle. I'm telling folks this narrative about Seattle is dying. No, we're living, we're thriving. That Seattle is known for poverty or throwing bricks through windows. No, that's not Seattle. That's not our one Seattle. That our collective voice centered around love, unity, hope, faith. That's one Seattle. Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Albert Maiman. Albert Maiman was born, raised, and educated in Jewish Seattle, attending the first class of the Seattle Hebrew Academy, Yeshivas Rabbeinu Chaim Ozer of Bikur Cholim, a member of AZA, strongly embedded in the Sephardic community with deep family connections. He has been and continues to be a very active learner in many subjects, in many ways, with many people. He has been very active in the local community organizations for many years, in some instances as founder of the organization, to board member, to president, including the Day School, Sephardic Bikur Cholim, the Federation, the Kollel, the Sephardic Network, the VAD, and many other local and national organizations. As one of the founding trustees of the Samis Foundation, he continues on their board today. Together with his wife, he has children, grandchildren, and their first great-granddaughter living in Seattle and Israel. Without further ado, Mr. Maimon.
Thank you so much, rabbis and my friends in this room, all the friends that I know and the friends that I haven't yet met. Thank you so much for having me here to share some thoughts with you. I'm humbled and feel privileged for the opportunity to take part in this evening's program celebrating the Rebbe's teaching and his impact. The main focus tonight is to hear firsthand report about the work for survival in Ukraine, the tragic war, its effects there, and spread it out in so many ways. The current Chabad presence there makes it relevant and is amplified by the deep historical connections between Chabad and Ukraine. I was really surprised when Rabbi Leverton called me up and said, Al, we want you to speak. What special connection do I have? What can I say that adds to this program? And then connections started coalescing and appearing. Over the weekend, my daughter Leah happened to hear a comment by Rabbi Sachs about the Rebbe, that he was a great leader. And while good leaders create followers, a great leader creates leaders. For a long time, I've had a modest, casual connection to Chabad. But at the same time, in my life, there have been and are very real relationships, physical, social, and in some ways, existential connections. And taken together, there is a significant impact. I'd like to share with you some of these personal coincidences. We don't believe in coincidence, but we believe in coincidence, right? Some of these coincidences and insights that have crystallized as a result in my thinking of this opportunity. First of all, Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe's passing on Gimel Tammuz, 1994, the same day that Sam Israel, the founder of Samis, passed away, the same day that in 1985 my mother passed away on a Shabbat on her 70th birthday. Also, in time, I just read yesterday that the Rebbe and his wife arrived in America in 1941, you're right, but for me what's significant is he arrived on June 23rd, 1941, my birthday. Okay, that's a coincidence. Next, there are people and places. Some I've known about, some not, some I see, some very close and personally, directly impactful. Some explicitly impacting me, others not so obviously. First of all, the Rebbe. 1960, my friend Marv and I we were in Crown Heights, and we walked by 770, and we heard noise, and we got to the window so we could go in and see the Rebbe. That's my contact with the Rebbe, personally. By far, the longest and most impactful connection for me is Rabbi Levitin, Rabbi Kornfeld, and their families when they came in 1972, and the 50 years since then. Because when they came here, I was born and raised in Seattle, but in 1972, my family and I, my wife and I, came back from living 2.5 years in Israel. So we were coming back, and we came here together. And this had led to a very special friendship with complementary capabilities, vision, and interests, specifically leading to a partnership of building and strengthening community. A project that Rabbi Levitin and I identified, coffee at the JCC, I think it was, and jointly worked on starting 30 years ago was the rejuvenation, the restarting of the VAD as we know it today. A very important experience and one of my most proud accomplishments in making a contribution to community. My work with SAMUS has brought me to follow and support Chabad's work in education, the Menachem Mendel School, and expanding to other key youth activities and programs that are continuing and will continue to grow. In Palm Springs and Rancho Mirage, for 20 plus years, we had the pleasure and the opportunity to learn with to meet Rabbi Dannenboim and his family, and Rabbi Posner and his family, and that included meeting the elder Rabbi Posner, who was sent by the Rebbe in the 50s. I think he was one of the first shlichim for the Rebbe, and I got to meet him and know him and learn something about his life. Furthermore, in my learning, for example, the early 20th century Sephardic commentator, the Kaf HaChaim on the Shulchan Aruch, uses as a consistent reference and source the more than 200-year-old work of the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Shulchan Aruch of the Harav. And so the connections are there, and I'm sure I haven't got them all. In summary, as we celebrate the teachings and impacts of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a great leader, we hope to build on his teaching and impact. We hope that collectively we can find a way to navigate today's physical and spiritual threats and challenges here and elsewhere. Personally, seeing the connections at so many levels, this celebration is to recognize and act on the coincidences in our life's journey, to build community, appreciate his lessons of leadership through using and increasing our sense of community. Thank you again, and Zichuto Yagen Aleinu.
I would now like to introduce Mrs. Rachi Farkash. Mrs. Farkash, together with her husband, Rabbi Mordechai Farkash, founded the East Side Torah Center and Chabad of Bellevue in Redmond. Over the past 25 years, they have built a thriving community. Mrs. Farkash is an educator, community leader, and beloved Rebbitzin. Please give a warm welcome to Mrs. Rachi Farkash.
Hello, good evening. My name is Rachi Farkash. My husband, Rabbi Mordechai, and I established the Eastside Torah Center in Bellevue, Redmond, Washington, actually 28 years ago. Can't believe it, this summer. We also just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary, Baruch Hashem. Looking back, I sometimes marvel how a free-spirited Seattle girl and a more serious-minded Jerusalem boy came to a pretty quick conclusion that we were bashert, meant for each other. And just to give you an idea, this conclusion included me pulling out some of my pretty rusty Yiddish, where there's a will, there's a way. As we went down the checklist of how we hope to establish our home and family life, one definitively checked box was that we both wanted to go on shlichus, the Chabad lifestyle of outreach and education. I was 20 years old, really loving my time living with friends in Brooklyn. I enjoyed eating out, riding a subway, and exploring the Big Apple whenever I could. At the same time, growing up in the 70s through the 90s as a Lubavitcher Chassid meant that the Jewish people, my people, were on my mind. The Rebbe inculcated, he instilled with persistence within us from a very young age to think about the spiritual and physical welfare of a fellow Jew. This was discussed during the Rebbe's many addresses and farbrangans and brought home through action. In the late 60s and early 70s, the first mitzvah tanks rolled out, offering the idea of the power of a single mitzvah. For the first time, Jews from all walks of life were wrapping tefillin on the streets of Manhattan and other big cities, taking home Shabbat candle kits, tzedakah boxes, mezuzot, and pamphlets and brochures explaining Jewish customs and teachings. The Rebbe also taught us to think about the greater world at large. Throughout his leadership, the Rebbe was very concerned with Jews behind the Soviet Iron Curtain and would often become very emotional when talking about their ordeal, sharing about what they were dealing with and their self-sacrifice in keeping what mitzvot they could. Once, when speaking about a letter he had received from a teenager in Leningrad, the Rebbe said, "He could have demanded anything from heaven. He could have lodged any protest. Instead," and here the Rebbe's voice broke, "instead, what does he ask? He complains that in the middle of prayers, his mind wanders and is asking what he could do about it." This is the world I grew up in. The Rebbe would announce a new initiative, and the Hasidim would mobilize and use every bit of their creativity and energy to help realize the Rebbe's vision. It was our biggest honor, our greatest desire to be a part of it. Yes, I was a child, but I too felt something open within me, some truth, when I was able to teach another child to say a bracha, what a mezuzah is, why our kitchen had 2 sinks, and of course about Shabbat and holidays. I felt I was imparting something precious and important for that fellow child to know. I loved growing up in a home where my parents, Rabbi Shalom Ber and Chani Levitin, may they live long and healthy years, who were sent by the Rebbe and Shlichus to the Pacific Northwest in 1973. They welcomed people from all walks of life and placed them in prominent positions around our table. We were fascinated and invested in their life stories and wanted them to look upon us as their home away from home and to see and feel the special energy that is a Jewish home. At least once or twice a year, we went to the Rebbe. There was a time we ate the Chex brand cereal, rice Chex, corn Chex, wheat Chex, right, for months to save up proof of purchase seals to afford plane tickets to New York. Anyone remember that promotion? We stayed in our Uncle Abel and Aunt Freda and Druzier's of Blessed Memories basement. The accommodations were tight. The main avenues, stores, and synagogues were packed, teeming with guests. Crown Heights was electrified with the spirit of the holiday, and especially as it concerned the Rebbe. One of the highlights of the trip was to receive lekach, honey cake, during the high holidays and wishes for chasiva v'chasima tova to be sealed for a sweet new year. There were farbrengans, children's rallies, and in later years, dollars, where the Rebbe stood for hours, accessible for blessing and good wishes, handing out $1 to each visitor. We would keep those dollars and give another $1 to tzedakah in its stead. I had the zchut, the merit, to receive many dollars from the Rebbe during those years. When it came time for a shidduch, dating and marriage, which, let's just say, took some time, actually, it was only a year, of dating to find my significant other, but you know grandparents and mine were worrying, so when they came to town, we would go for dollars. My grandparents would inevitably push me to the front and ask the Rebbe for a bracha, for a shidduch, for a match. The Rebbe would give me a blessing, bracha v'hatzlacha, blessing for success, and $1 for me, and also one for my chassan, who I had not yet met. One time, even calling me back to give it to me. So by the time I got married, I had $3 for my husband from the Rebbe. This was very meaningful to me because I knew 2 things. In that great big sea of young men, there was one for me, and that this was someone the Rebbe really approved of. There are hundreds of stories of encounters with the Rebbe by dollars. You waited your turn, always a little trepidatious, becoming more serious as the moment came closer, and then there was the Rebbe with the warmest of smiles, and you felt that he saw the best in you, the real you, and just that look was a blessing. Growing up, it wasn't unusual to see my mother writing letters to the Rebbe. Some of them were pages long. She had first met the Rebbe at 13 years old when her father, my grandfather, of blessed memory, a Holocaust survivor from Los Angeles, was becoming a chassid. The Rebbe showed my mother a lot of care and concern, especially when, as a young wife and shlucha, my mother would ask for guidance. In fact, one of my earliest memories was being in Yechidus, private audience with my 3 siblings at the time, my brother Mendy in my mother's arms as she bent over the side of the Rebbe's desk, conversing. Today we have many books of responsa to the thousands of letters that were written annually to the Rebbe's headquarters at 770 Eastern Parkway. Please allow me to share 2 small letters which, in my opinion, highlight the Rebbe's all-encompassing love and sensitivity for every person. Letter 1. This is a letter that was the standard text that the Rebbe used to reply to bar mitzvah boys that wrote in for a blessing regarding their upcoming milestone. A little background. This particular letter is dated a week after Simchat Torah 1977. The Rebbe was recuperating after suffering a massive heart attack on the night of Shmini Atzeret. His office in 770 had been outfitted as a full hospital room to serve the Rebbe's needs. On the same page of his standard bar mitzvah response, the Rebbe adds a full paragraph in his holy handwriting. So we were going to have a clip, but it's the Rebbe's response, and on the side, the Rebbe wrote in his own handwriting another paragraph. To your notification that I am of a secular family, this was how the bar mitzvah boy described himself. Certainly this secularism is a side note and an external layer which covers the main essence which is within. Since everyone in your family is a son of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or a daughter of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, or Leah, and the following tens of generations after them were generations that observed Torah and mitzvot. But God gives a person a choice in regard to his own conduct, and that cannot take away or change his main inner essence. The Rebbe makes a whole to-do, despite the very difficult physical circumstance he was in, to motivate and uplift a young man that he should not feel inferior or less than, being that his family is not observant, and highlighting that his essence is perfect and complete. The second letter, dated March of 1972. A young man in Crown Heights writes to the Rebbe, I feel that it is God's will that I should move out of the neighborhood because of some acrimony I am receiving due to the changing of my religious beliefs away from Judaism. The Rebbe writes again in his own handwriting, it is absolutely incorrect and certainly not the wish of God for you to leave. Please stay, at least until after the high holidays, so that we can celebrate all the 3 major holidays, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, and my own birthday, which the Rebbe's birthday was 3 days before Passover, and Simchat Torah together. And you should utilize this time to study the Torah in depth and with vigor so that you will inspire others. May God bring you success, since this is his will. Look how wonderful, a young man who strayed from Yiddishkeit in a pretty profound way, to the point that he feels he must leave because of his attachment to a new belief system, which might not fit with the values of his neighborhood. The Rebbe doesn't try to persuade him away from his path. He simply tells him to stay and celebrate with him the holidays, including his own birthday, as if it won't be complete without him, and then empowers him to study and inspire others. As we approach the Rebbe's 28th yahrzeit and we reflect on the continuous influence the Rebbe's legacy has on so many, it is an appropriate time to commit ourselves to that which was of utmost importance to the Rebbe, tipping the balance of the world's energy to a kinder, better, and more sensitive society. One act of kindness and acceptance at a time. bringing the world to its ultimate completion. May it be speedily in our days. Amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Farkash, for sharing such beautiful and uplifting personal memories of the Rebbe. Rabbi Mendel Moskowitz was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Kharkiv, Ukraine. At the age of 6 months, Rabbi Moskowitz moved with his parents to serve as Chabad emissaries and rebuild Jewish life in Kharkiv following communism. After studying abroad for 10 years in yeshiva and graduating rabbinical school in Sydney, Australia, Rabbi Moskowitz returned with his wife Chani to Kharkiv. There he raised 3 children and served as a rabbi to Jewish Ukrainian youth for 7 years, until the onset of the current war in Ukraine. Rabbi Moskowitz additionally is a certified life coach and founded the Hasidic Holistic Programming Methodology for Personal Growth. Following his dramatic escape from Ukraine, from bomb-ravaged Kharkiv, Rabbi Moskowitz has motivated and inspired many, with over 50 speeches delivered worldwide. Rabbi Moskowitz is now serving as an ambassador to Jewish Relief Network of the Ukraine Charity Fund.
Good evening. I have to say that never in my wildest dream did I imagine the mayor of Seattle reading an article about me, a boy in Ukraine. It's like, that's a new one for me. Thank you, the Levitin family, for having me, for hearing me out. I want to take you tonight on a journey of my story. A little boy who was born in Brooklyn, New York, with a mother from Sydney, Australia, a father from Caracas, Venezuela. I grew up in Ukraine all my life, so if I make a few mistakes in English, I hope you all forgive me. My life in a handbag started with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who we gathered today to honor. The Rebbe was actually born in the Ukraine. It was then the Soviet Union. The Rebbe was born in Nikolaev. And let's see if everything's working. This is me, my wife Chani, 4 of my kids in Ukraine, in Kharkov, about a year ago. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, throughout all these years, had a big heart for the people of Ukraine, for the people of the Soviet Union. Anytime, especially in the beginning of his leadership, he would cry for hours in all the gatherings about the Jews in Ukraine and in Russia who can't practice Judaism. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, throughout all these years, sent many emissaries throughout the world, like Rabbi Levitin, and throughout the world, everywhere but Ukraine and Russia, because it was too dangerous. And in 1990, in a secret mission, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent 3 families. Rabbi Lazar, who today is the chief rabbi of Russia, Rabbi Kamenetsky, who was the chief rabbi of Dnepropetrovsk, and my father here in the picture together with me. And the Rebbe, in this, there's no video of this, but the Rebbe asked my father if I'm also going to Kharkov, which is obvious, but the Rebbe wanted to make sure that I'm also being sent on this very important mission to go to Kharkov, Ukraine, to help Jews and revive Judaism after the Soviet Union. Growing up in Ukraine was actually a very interesting experience. I was a little boy. I was very proud of being Jewish, of being different. As you can see in the picture, I grew up with no trauma. The only trauma I grew up was everyone was pinching my cheeks. That's something I had a hard time dealing with, but other than that, life was great, life was simple. I remember as a kid, the highlight of my week would be borscht on Thursdays, and if I behaved well, I would even get some mayonnaise in it, so that would be like the highlight of my week. Life was truly a blessing. Simple Jews, anybody who has been to Ukraine knows the people of Ukraine. Life was special. When I was 13, I was the only religious boy, and I was the first one who had a bar mitzvah in the whole country after the Soviet Union. So kids came from all over Ukraine, all the rabbis of Ukraine came to my bar mitzvah. to see what a Jewish bar mitzvah actually looks like. So that's something for me. I always felt the pride in being a shliach, the pride of being an emissary of the Rebbe, and have the importance of showing everybody what Jewish life is, not just talking about it, but actually showing what Jewish life is. And I look for somebody who will want to marry me, first of all, which is nice, and someone who wants to join me and do shlichus, continue this work, continue helping people, whether it's spiritually or physically, in whatever they need. So after a year of Israel, that's all we had, and now I have a little less, but we'll get there. And after a year, we had a baby, and we moved to Kharkov, Ukraine, together with my family. And I have to say, I don't know what's the weather like in Seattle, but in Kharkov it could get pretty cold, minus 20, minus 30. But we get used to it, and it's actually a lot of fun. My kids love the winter. They wait all year for the winter. When it's too much snow, we have special sleds. We take our kids with sleds around. One of the main excitements for me to be a rabbi and to live in Ukraine was the people, was helping people every day, being for them, being an example for them. I remember walking one day on the street, and someone asked me, what's this thing, what are these strings hanging out from your pants? And I told them, this is tzitzis, this is 613, we have 613 mitzvahs, and this is how we remember. We look at them, and then we remember that we have these mitzvahs. I asked him, are you Jewish by any chance? He said, yes, I'm Jewish. To make a long story short, every Shabbos he's in shul and prays. And I remember after that story, after that happened to me, I was a little kid. I realized the power of just the fact that we're proud, we walk as proud Jews, the effect that could have on people. And of course, this is a picture of my son. This is already the third generations of emissaries in Kharkov, taking him into school last year. And the picture on the left is a picture of a taxi driver who I was driving with him. I came from the airport. I was very tired, but we're Chabadniks. We ask anybody we see. We ask, "Are you Jewish?" Start a good conversation. He says, "Yes." I don't know anything about it. I just know that the Star of David. This is something I wear. He showed me the Star of David. I took him up to my house. We put on tefillin. Many stories. And one of my main jobs in Kharkov, my main occupation was being the rabbi of the school. This is a picture of our kindergarten. Every single kid you see in this picture, it's a miracle of how he came to synagogue, how he came to the community, how their family came to the community. One of the things that excite me most is showing Judaism to kids, because kids, they have something so spiritual about them. And last year's Shavuos, this is exactly a year ago, this picture was taken, a year and a month. I'm showing kids what is a Torah, what is synagogue for the first time. We have the first graders, we take them for the first time, we take them to show what a shul is, what a synagogue is. It is unbelievable, unbelievable. Some of these kids didn't know that they're Jewish until this moment, and bringing them in first grade, showing them the shul is truly an amazing experience. Some statistics: Kharkov is the second largest city in Ukraine, and Kharkov has the biggest shul in Ukraine and one of the 10 biggest shuls in the world, according to Wikipedia. We're very proud of it. We're very proud of our synagogue, and we are very proud that we had the honor for so many years to rebuild the synagogue, to make it so beautiful like you see here in this picture. Kharkov, when we came in 1990, had 50,000 Jews. Before the war, Kharkov had 20,000 Jews. And throughout Ukraine, as Rabbi Levitin mentioned, there was 150 rabbis serving in Ukraine, Chabad rabbis, and there's approximately 350,000 Jews in Ukraine. So we're talking about a very, very large situation. This is a picture of our Gan Yisrael camp. The Rebbe was very proud and passionate about Jewish education. This is something that Rebbe was very, very passionate about. So we had every summer we made a big camp with 100 girls, 100 boys, and we had this beautiful kollel, a place where every night these young men would come and learn Torah together with me. This was something also we're very proud of, and we had it going for so many years. Any holidays is always a lot of fun, especially Hanukkah. Chabad loves Hanukkah because the message is so beautiful, light up the world, especially when it's dark, especially when it's cold. And I looked at myself as the Jewish Santa Claus, because the kids there, they only knew about Santa, who has a white beard and a red jacket. And I had to introduce them to the Jewish Santa Claus, which had a black hat and a black jacket and a white shirt. And I had to bring presents and make sure it's just as exciting, if not more. And the kids loved it. The kids loved Hanukkah. We lit up the city every year. And life was great. Life was great in Kharkov, as you could see in all these pictures. You could see young people, vibrant, obviously drinking vodka, which is something the local people love doing. Purim was one of our biggest events, as you could see in the synagogue full of Jews. Every year we would make a big Purim party we would take the circus with 2,000 Jews, fill up the circus, and that's what we do every year. And we had one year we had to cancel because of Corona. We didn't have the circus. So a Jew came over to me and asked me, is it possible to have Purim if not in a circus? Is that okay? If this year we won't have it in a circus, we could still read the Megillah. I said, yes, it's fine. Everything started about a month around Hanukkah time. We started getting messages and started seeing in the news that the Kremlin is thinking about invading Ukraine. Putin is thinking about invading the Ukraine. And we didn't take that too seriously. We're busy with all our holidays and our Jewish community. We didn't have time for war, and local people didn't think something like this could actually happen. But day by day, things were getting worse, and there was a point where 150,000 soldiers gathered by Kharkov. Kharkov is the closest big city to the Russian border. The Russian border is a half-an-hour drive from my house. So we understood that if the Russians come in, we won't have enough time to leave, and to escape. But we made the decision that we have to stay. The Rebbe sent us to Kharkov. We have our community we have to take care of. We can't just leave them behind. And we decided that we're staying. Whether there's going to be a war, there's not going to be a war, we have to be there. We have no choice. We have to serve our community, not only when it's good, but also when times are hard. A day before the war broke out, we had a beautiful event in our school we have 300 kids in our Jewish school, and our school had a beautiful party. It had a birthday party. Our school was 30 years old. That day was 30 years old, and all the kids, as you can see here, were dressed beautifully. And ironically, we're singing this song about peace, not knowing that the next day a war would break out. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. The next day at 5 in the morning, I was woken up by explosions by my window. My kids started crying. I ran, picked them up, and I'm still dreaming. It's 5 in the morning. I'm still in my sleep, and I'm thinking to myself, can it be? Is it possible that a war broke out? Is this the war? I couldn't believe it. So I had to, even though I was hearing the explosions, I had to open my phone physically, look at the news to make sure that I'm actually hearing that a war has broken out. And I took my kids, we got them dressed, and we ran to my parents. They had a basement, and we had to hide because I lived in a high floor. I had to find a place to hide from the explosions. And Next to the shul, we're building a new mikveh. And we had a lot of sandbags. As they say, nothing happens, nothing is a coincidence. So we took all the sandbags, we filled up the windows of the shul, of the first floor, because many Jews that day, the first day of the war, came to synagogue to find shelter. Over 100 Jews came within the first few hours from when the war has broken out, and it was our responsibility not just to be the spiritual providers for the city, but also the physically providing shelter for the Jewish people. In this short video, I just want you to hear the explosions that were constantly from the beginning, from when the war broke out till when we had to leave and escape. This is a video of a community member. He took his car and he went searching the whole city. He brought some blankets for the elderly Jews who came to find shelter in the shul.
Come inside, it's dangerous already.
This is the basement of the synagogue with all the people who came there the first day. And here you could see all the elderly people, people who we fed every day, came to synagogue. We had some medicine for them as well. We had a special program that we fed people and we gave them medicine. People who, as you know, the financial situation is not so good in Ukraine in general, even before the war. So that's something we're very busy doing. So thank God we had food to provide to the people and we had medicine. People came and didn't stop coming to synagogue. People came with their kids, cats, dogs. It became like a big reunion. People came, people we haven't seen for a very long time because of COVID as well. People just came to synagogue. So it was nice to see everybody. Across the street from the shul, this is a picture from the subway system. Across the street from the shul, people from the whole city came across the street, and after 2 days they became hungry, and that time there was no Red Cross like now in the Ukraine. So people came to synagogue. Thank God we also had the food, enough food to provide not only for the Jewish community but also for the people of the city of Kharkov who came to ask for food. We had drivers. This is one of our Jewish drivers, Asail, who risked his life. Thank God he's alive. He wasn't hurt. Who throughout the whole war was driving around giving out medicine and food to people. That Shabbos, the first Shabbos of the war, was a crazy experience. It was emotional. People didn't know what's happening, didn't know where to go, what's going to be. And explosions in the background throughout the whole davening. We had a minyan, we had a lot of people who were in shul, but people were worried. People didn't know what's going to be. The next morning, Sunday morning, I hear gunshots outside my window. This is a picture I took from my phone. I look outside, I see a Ukrainian soldier with a Kalashnikov and a coffee, drinking coffee. I opened the window, asked him what is going on, because we already got used to hearing the explosions, but this is something new. Now we're hearing gunshots. He tells me the Russians are in the streets, go hide somewhere, they're in Kharkov, and don't stand next to the window. So I went downstairs. I obviously didn't tell anything my wife. She was worried enough from the explosions. There was no need to get her more worried than what she was. But I opened up a prayer book. What else can I do? There's nothing else that can be done in that moment. The same day, I get a phone call from the Israeli press that they're looking for food. There was no food in Kharkov. People were hungry. And the Israeli press called the Chabad house, called my number, and tells me I'm hungry. Tell them, come. Our house is open. Come to our Chabad house. So as you could see here, the kids were very excited to see somebody. 4 days they haven't seen anybody. So for them it was an amazing experience. But what was very worrying for us, they told us that the Israeli government asked them to leave Kharkov. And that got us worried because those days there was talk about a nuclear war and other things that might happen, and that we knew we had no place to run to. No basement is going to save us. And the next morning, there wasn't a nuclear nuclear war, but a very dangerous vacuum bomb Kharkov was hit by a few of them. Here you could see a short video. This is 2 blocks away from my house at 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. You could just imagine how our house shook 2 blocks away, and many other bombs were dropped as well in the city. And that morning, we got a phone call from Rabbi Kotlarsky, who was the head of the representative of the rabbis, who told us that we have to leave and we have to evacuate our community. So I called up the drivers, everybody I know, and I offered them tens of thousands of dollars. You have to save our life, we have to get out. And as you could see here in the streets, there was no way of getting out of the city. This is all from that first morning. Tuesday morning. It was a week into the war, but the Russians decided that they're going to attack not only military places, but also just regular civilians. This is a picture from our beautiful school, which is now heavily damaged. And it's truly unbelievable. You know, I'm looking at these pictures. I gave this talk so many times, but every time I look at this picture, I can't believe why would someone do this? What is the motive behind it? This is something till today I'm wondering and trying to understand. But that's when we realized we had to get out. And that night, there was heavy explosions. And obviously I couldn't sleep. That whole week, when you're under stress, you can't sleep, you can't eat. And I was laying in bed looking at the ceiling. And after a bomb falls, there's like a silence. Like a real silence, like you can't hear anything. It's like as if no one's left. And I had a thought in my mind that maybe this is the end. Maybe this is it. That was my first thought. And I was in peace. I thought, you know, the Rebbe sent us here, and maybe this is what we were meant to do. But then my second thought came that there's no way the Rebbe sent us here to die. And if I'm in peace, that's one thing. But I have a wife, I have kids, I have my community I have to take care of. No one's dying. I don't know how we're going to get out, but we're going to find a way. A miracle happened. The next morning, I found the driver that took our family out. We had a route that took us from Kharkov. We had to get all the way to Moldova. This was a trip that took us 2 days. I had to find a car that took us for 4 hours, then another 6 hours, then another 9 hours. Many cars and buses and minivans, and all the way till we got to Moldova, which was a miracle in its own. And we had explosions on the way. We had soldiers come into our car for visits. We saw many tanks and other Russian equipment that was throughout the whole journey. But thank God we made it to Moldova. In the middle of the night, the driver decided to drop us off there. We thought he's going to take us through the border. He told us, I'm Ukrainian, I can't go through the border. Go take out your family, go walk through the border. Now, the walk is an hour walk, and I'm standing there. I had a 2-year-old kid in my arms, and another family who was with us that had a baby that was 2 months old, and it's -5, the middle of the night. Another miracle happened. I wrote to all the rabbis, somebody help, please, we're by the Moldovan border, we don't know where we're going, it's the middle of the night, it's freezing cold. Thank God, a bus from the Kiev Jewish community was at the border. They sent us their location in the middle of the night. We walked around, we found the bus. We got safely to Moldova. From Moldova, we went to Romania. And from Romania on Friday, we were evacuated with a very special flight that Chabad organized to take our refugees from Romania. And we arrived in Israel, thank God. And another miracle that happened to us is that we didn't take the train. My first thought when I couldn't find the car was to take the train, because that's the normal thing to do. That's how you leave Kharkov. That's where most people were living Kharkov. But my wife had a bad feeling about the train. The train was going to Lvov, and the train, Lvov, war stories, something didn't add up for her. She decided that we're not taking the train no matter what. This is a picture of the train station from Kharkov. The first week of the war, 600,000 people went through that train station. I know many people from our community who took the train and told me the scariest stories and scary things that happened to them in that 22-hour train ride from Kharkov to Lvov. And thank God we weren't there, but many communities members had to go through the train. But thank God no one was hurt. Some people were killed from missiles, but no one was hurt from this train ride. And throughout this journey, I took some videos from my phone. I want to show you this 2-minute clip, a small clip of how we escaped and how we made our way to Israel.
מי יודע כל כאב, מי רופא
You could see the smoke on top
שבורי לב,
from the explosions.
יוצר אור
תשמחנו ושלום, שגנו למחייס, חפצנו לחיים ולשמחה ולשלום.
מי יושב
ותחזרנו לשלום.
וסצילנו.
סצילנו.
מתנשא ברחמים, אוכל וסולח, מביט ויודע, ומי ירפא ליבי, אל מי אני מתגעגע, כמו ים שאין לו חוף. רק תגיד לי מי יחבק אותי, ואבטיח שאני לא אכנע בסוף. מי היה עובר יהיה, מי ממית ומחיה, פותח ידיים, מצמיח כנפיים, ומי ירפא ליבי, אל מי אני מתגעגע, כמו ים שאין לו חוף. רק תגיד לי מי יחבק אותי, ואבטיח שאני לא אכנע בסוף. כמו ים שלא חוף. רק תגיד לי מי יחבק אותי, ואבטיח שאני לא אכנע בסוף, שאני לא אכנע בסוף.
I remember my wife when we got into the bus, she tells me, everybody looks like refugees. Everybody's sad and doesn't have things with them. I told her, Hani, I hate to break it to you, but we're refugees too now. But thank God we came to Israel, and the community, the whole Jewish community in the world was amazing. People gave our kids clothes and presents. and a lot of support, a lot of prayers. One of the things that we did when we came to Israel, we came to the Kotel, we told God thank you for saving us and showed our appreciation for being alive. When we came to Israel, we realized that our community is in a very big crisis. The first thing that we did was we understood that the community was split into two. A big part of the community came to Israel together with us, whether it was by plane, by buses, special buses that we sent to Kharkov to get people out of there as quick as possible. And we ended up with a very big community on one hand in Israel. On the other hand, we had a big community in Kharkov, many men who joined the army, who can't leave. And we started working on two fronts. On one front, we gathered, this is a picture from Purim, we gathered our whole community, 280 people we had for Purim together. And on the other hand, in Kharkov, we're busy, we gave people in the buses that were leaving Kharkov, we made sure they have even the traditional Purim Hamantashen together with them. These are pictures of our Jewish community, people leaving on the buses, on minivans, whatever we had available, whatever we could provide for them. And the buses that would come back from Moldova, they would come back with food, water, gas, whatever is needed for the community. Till today, we have buses that are going back and forth. And it's very sad. It's very sad. The situation is very sad. It's very sad to see what is happening with Ukraine and the Jewish people of Ukraine. Thank God the community worldwide is supporting our efforts and our buses to take people out from Kharkov, and we're still doing it till today. Even complicated situations when people can't walk or have issues getting down from their floor, from their apartments, where we have special people who are helping them do it. And my message tonight is that, and I hope everybody takes this message from this story, is that living life on a mission is amazing and fulfilling. Living life with a purpose, as a kid, as a grown-up, it's something I was always proud of. And it always gave me meaning in life. And I want to wish every single one of you to find your purpose and your meaning in life, because the Rebbe taught us that we're all on a mission. We're all on a mission to make this world a better place. And every single one of us has to find a way in his own life, in his work, in whatever he's doing, to find a way to help people, whether it's with money, whether it's with a smile, whether it's someone needs just a phone call to see how you're doing. We have to be on a mission. When we're on a mission to make the world a better place, then it doesn't matter if we're in Ukraine or here in Seattle or anywhere in the world. This gives our life purpose. And I wish every one of us that we should live a life of purpose, and we should complete our mission in making the world a better place. Thank you.
Rabbi Moskowitz, wow. Thank you very much for sharing your story and for sharing with us your words of inspiration, wisdom, and courage. In conclusion, dear friends, the Rebbe would always promote the adage of the sages, Hamaisa hu ha'ikar. The actual deed is paramount. As such, we would like to suggest a positive resolution that we can all take as we leave tonight's evening to help make this world a purer, brighter place. That is, to increase in the fulfillment of the commandment Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love our fellow as much as ourselves. In the fragmented world that we live in, each act of kindness that we perform makes a big difference in helping to heal the world and triggers an even more impactful positive ripple effect. A CNN reporter came by the Rebbe in 1992 while he was distributing dollars and asked the Rebbe what his message for the world was. The Rebbe responded, "We should increase in acts of goodness and kindness, and then Mashiach will be ready to come immediately." Thank you to our incredible lineup of speakers tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Thank you to all the distinguished rabbis and community leaders, shluchim and shluchais that joined us here tonight. And thank you to Rabbi Shmuley and Chaya Levitin of Chabad Downtown and CYP Seattle for the organization of this wonderful event. I would like to wish you all a good night, a safe trip home, and may we merit to always gather for worthy occasions together. Thank you.